Hi friends, today I'm going to be working on a project that I've been wanting to do for quite a while and just never got around to it, but today's the day. I have a couple of recipes that were handwritten by my mom and my aunt, and I've been wanting to find a way to display those in my kitchen. Things like that are just really precious to me, and I just love my old treasures. And so you can see here that I have some mason jar plaques that I got from the dollar store. I think I've had them since probably last spring, and so I'm going to be using these, and I'll go through the supplies with you and show you what we're going to need. Now over here in my plate I have some paint that I've mixed, and I just matched it up as well as I could to that background paper that I'll be covering the plaques with. And then over here I have my recipes, and I just put these recipes in my Word program on my computer, and I shrunk them down and printed them out on a heavier paper. You're going to need a paintbrush to apply Mod Podge, and I'm just using the Dollar Tree Mod Podge. I have a craft knife that I'm going to be using to trim the paper down. You can use scissors or whatever you want to trim your paper after it's put onto the jar. Then some scissors, and I have a little dotting tool here. It's to put dots of paint onto whatever you're working on, but I use it for different things, and so I'm going to be using that. And then I have some Tim Holtz distress ink and a distress tool that I'll be using, and I have some jute, and we're going to be using that. I have a cup of water and some napkins over to the side, and of course I've got my coffee. I have to have my coffee. I can't craft without it. So I have that, and we're ready to get started. Now I'm just going to apply some of this paint around the edges of my jars, because I think it'll just give them a little bit more of a finished look. You can just bend that wire out of the way and start painting. Of course, if you get any paint on the tin piece there, you can wipe that off as you paint. Of course, it's not going to matter if you get a little bit on the jars, because that's going to be covered up with that thicker paper and you'll not be able to see through it. Now I'm going to show you how to apply your paper. I just lay my paper down, and I make sure that the paper comes up above that tin piece that forms the lid there. I want it to come up above that, and then I want to make sure that my paper is kind of centered on the jar. And then I'm just going to trace around the edges of that jar with my fingers, just making a crease line around there to give me a line to cut by. Now I'm going to use my dotting tool here, and I'm just going to trace around the edge of that mason jar lid. You can kind of feel the end of it, the edge of it, and trace a line around there so that you'll know where to cut. Just make sure all of your edges of your paper are pressed down really well, and I hope you can see that on the back there, that the outline of the jar. And so I am just going to cut this out, but I'm going to cut outside the line. I don't want to cut right on the line. I want to cut outside of it, because after you apply it, you can go back and trim around the jar again, and it'll give you a better coverage on the edges. Now where the piece fits around the lid, I want to cut just inside of that line. Don't cut outside of it, because you want that little bit of wiggle room in case you have to adjust something. We're just going to try this and see how it works. It's looking pretty good, but I think I might have to trim it just a little bit more to get it to fit real nicely. So I'm just going to trim this a little bit more, and I'm just using my fingernail here to make another little line around the edge of that the lid. And so I'm going to give it just another little trim. again, and this looks pretty good here. And you can kind of use your fingernail or a craft knife or something to just kind of push that up under the edge of that lid a little bit once you get your Mod Podge on there. And so we're going to apply the Mod Podge now. I'm just going to pour a little bit on there, and not putting it in a bowl or anything. You want to get up around those edges really well, and then just spread that Mod Podge out, put a nice layer on there, a nice thin coat, and as I said, get those edges because you don't want your piece of paper lifting from around the edges when you let all this dry. So I've got a good coat of Mod Podge on there now, and I'm just going to put the paper on. And I'm just going to try to fit that paper right up under the edge of that tin piece there. And if you can't get it to go under there, just push it right up there as close as you can, and kind of use your fingernail to fit it in there. I have a little piece there that I'm going to have to trim off, I think. And just be careful here that you don't cut your fingers. Now we've got it looking pretty good, and I'm just going to smooth all the bubbles and the wrinkles out, and then I'm going to set this aside to dry. Okay, the plaque is dry now, and I'm going to use my craft knife here to trim the paper. Of course, you can use scissors if you want, and just trim all that away. Now I'm ready to work on my recipes. I'm just going to bring a jar over, and you can see there the edges are all painted nicely, and the paper has dried. And I'm just going to lay my recipe down and just get an idea of where I want to tear the paper. I'm not going to be trimming these. I'm just going to rip the edges because I want that distressed look. So I'm just putting some marks there just to give myself an idea of where to start at, and how far or how close to the recipe I need to trim. And so I'm just going to start ripping the paper away. So now I have my recipe torn out. So now the next thing I do here is I take the distress ink. This is Vintage Photo, as I said before, and I'm just going to use my little distress tool there, and I'm going to apply some of this ink around the edges of this piece of paper, and it just gives it that old rustic look that I like so much. Now I've got it all finished, and I've got some places there on the corners and here and there. I just wanted to add a little bit of extra ink to just add to the look a little bit. Now I'm ready to apply the Mod Podge to the back of this paper and get it put on my jar. Now, if you're using a thinner paper, you would probably want to apply the recipe or whatever it is that you are applying to your plaque or these jars or whatever you have. You would probably want to use a glue stick because a thinner paper would just buckle if you use Mod Podge. It's going to be really hard to smooth the all the wrinkles and bubbles out of it. I'm going to apply it to the jar, and I'm going to make sure that all those edges have a nice coating of glue, and then I'm just going to smooth all that the wrinkles and the bubbles out of there. and I'm going to let it dry. Now you can see here that the jars are done, and I absolutely love how they turned out. They're going to be so pretty in my kitchen. Now, I did use a fingernail file to pop those staples out of that wire that was attached, and I just put a piece of jute on there, hot glued it on. These are not that heavy, so I'm sure hot glue will hold just fine. And then I've glued that piece that I tied around the lid there. I just glued it in the back a little bit there, and I put some glue on the front there. It just helps to hold it a little bit better. And I'll probably go back and cover the backs of these, and then I will hang them in my kitchen and enjoy them. So if you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. Every thumbs up, every like, every share helps my channel to grow. And if you haven't subscribed, go over and hit that subscribe button, and there's a little bell, and if you'll click that, YouTube will notify you of new videos I post. So you guys take care, be blessed, and I'll catch you in the next video.